IGCSE and O-Level Smart Biology M. Rashid Chatter 0300461047. 10. Diseases and immunity. Diseases are infections caused by viruses, bacteria, fungi, or protoctista. Pathogens may be transmitted by direct or indirect contact. The body has defenses against pathogens. There are a number of ways of controlling the spread of disease, including clean water supply, hygiene, waste disposal, and sewage treatment. Active immunity is defense against a pathogen by antibody production in the body. Antibodies are proteins that bind to antigens, which either destroy pathogens directly or mark pathogens for destruction by phagocytes. Each pathogen has its own antigens, which have specific shapes. Antibodies have complementary shapes that fit specific antigens. Active immunity is gained after an infection by a pathogen or by vaccination. The process of vaccination involves the immune response and production of memory cells to give long-term immunity. Vaccination controls the spread of diseases. Passive immunity is a short-term defense against pathogens. Breastfeeding is important for the development of passive immunity in infants. Memory cells are not produced in passive immunity. Cholera is a disease caused by a bacterium that is transmitted in contaminated water. Cholera affects the small intestine, leading to diarrhea, dehydration, and loss of ions from the blood. Cholera can be treated by using a complete course of suitable antibiotic. Keywords: antibodies, antigens, phagocytes, lymphocytes, erythrocytes, capillaries, double circulation, pacemaker, cholera, hygiene, immunity, active immunity, passive immunity, vaccination, infectious disease, hereditary disease, pathogens, contaminated water. Glossary. Antibodies, chemicals made by the body in response to parasites and foreign substances called antigens. They destroy or neutralize antigens. Antigens, bacteria, viruses, or foreign substances in the body which stimulate the production of antibodies. Antitoxin, a type of antibody which neutralizes poisonous substances, particularly those produced by parasites. Pathology, the scientific study of the effects on the body of disease organisms. Pseudopodia, projections from the cytoplasm of certain cells, e.g. amoeba. They are used in locomotion and feeding. Toxin, a poisonous substance. Vaccine, a suspension of dead, inactivated, or relatively harmless germs which, when introduced into the bloodstream, stimulate the production of antibodies and make the body immune to attacks from harmful disease organisms. Immunity, the ability of an organism to resist infection from parasites. Parasite. IGCSE and O-Level Smart Biology M. Rashid Chatter 0300461047. Organism that obtains food from the living body of another organism. Short MCQs with right answers. 1. What is defined as a disease-causing organism? Pathogen. 2. The sequence of amino acids in antibodies enables them to which function? Bind to a specific antigen. 3. What is an example of good personal hygiene in the kitchen? Washing hands before eating food. 4. What are features of gas exchange surfaces in animals? Thin-walled and large surface area. 5. Which chemical can be used to show the presence of carbon dioxide gas? Lime water. 6. When babies are born, they have some passive immunity. Which conditions are needed for passive immunity to develop? Antibodies produced by the mother have crossed the placenta. 7. Which component of blood engulfs pathogens? Phagocytes. 8. What would help reduce transmission of malaria? Use of mosquito nets. 9. What are the effects of the human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, on the immune system? 10. Which diagram describes the roles of a mosquito and plasmodium in the disease malaria? 11. Which part of a pathogen is recognized by the immune system? Antigen. 12. When a tissue from a man is grafted onto a woman, it may be rejected by the woman's body. What is the main cause of this rejection? Antibody production. 13. What is a disease-causing organism called? Pathogen. 14. Which give active immunity? Infection of disease and vaccination. 15. What is not a consequence of vaccination? Phagocytes produce antibodies. 16. Which are both chemical barriers to the transmission of pathogens? Mucus and stomach acid. 17. The immune system recognizes pathogens and attacks them. Which feature of pathogen triggers this response? Antigens. 18. The body has defenses to protect itself from diseases. What is a mechanical barrier to diseases? Hairs in the nose. 19. What happens when a child is vaccinated against tuberculosis? Type of immunity, active and production of memory cells. Yes. 20. Which row describes active immunity? Depends on phagocytes, X, and memory cells are produced. 21. The structures of antibodies, DNA molecules, and enzymes are specific to their actions. Which feature of each molecule makes it specific? Antibody, binding site, DNA, base order, and enzyme, active site. IGCSE and O-Level Smart Biology. M. Rashid Chatha 030046104457. 22. Which row describes the features of passive immunity? Antibodies made, no, involves memory cells, no, unaffected period, short term. 23. Which disease is transmissible? Cholera. 24. Which row describes the features of passive immunity? Antibodies are not made, memory cells are not involved, and effective period is short term. 25. By which route would an HIV infection not be transmissible? Saliva. 26. Vaccination can be given to gain active immunity. Which statement about the type of vaccination is correct? The vaccination triggers antibody production in the body. 27. The antibodies that give immunity to a disease can be acquired in the following different ways. Which are 1. Feeding of breast milk. 2. Infection by disease. 3. Vaccination. Which give active immunity? 2 and 3. 28. The sequence of amino acids in antibodies enable them to complete which function? Bind to a specific antigen. 29. Cholera is a disease by a bacterium called Vibrio cholera which produces a toxin in the affected person's duct. What is the effect of this toxin? It causes water to enter the gut from the blood. 30. A patient was injected with antibodies after being bitten by a poisonous snake. The patient recovers and survives. What describes the effect in the patient's body? Passive immunity, memory cells not produced, and no active immunity as well. 31. A baby acquires protection from pathogens from the mother's breast milk. What is this protection called? Passive immunity. 32. Which is an example of passive immunity? Giving chickenpox antibody to people at risk of developing a severe infection. 33. Which statement about passive immunity is correct? Antibodies are acquired. IGCSE and O-Level Smart Biology. M. Rashid Chatha 030046104457. 11. Gas exchange in human. Alveoli in the lungs are present in large numbers, provide a large surface area, have a thin surface, have a good blood supply, and are well ventilated with air for efficient gas exchange. The parts of the human breathing system are nose, trachea, bronchus, bronchioles, alveoli, lungs, ribcage, and diaphragm. The position of the intercostal muscles, external and internal to move the ribcage. The functions of cartilage in the trachea and the roles of ribs, intercostal muscles, and diaphragm in the ventilation of the lungs. Inspired air contains a higher percentage of oxygen and a lower percentage of carbon dioxide and, usually, water vapor than expired air. Lime water is used as a test for the presence of carbon dioxide. It turns milky. The reason why inspired air contains a higher percentage of oxygen and a lower percentage of carbon dioxide and, usually, water vapor than expired air. As some of these substances are used and some are produced in the body. During exercise, the rate of breathing increase. This supplies extra oxygen to the muscles and removes their excess carbon dioxide. During physical activity, increases in levels of carbon dioxide in the blood are detected in the brain, causing an increased rate of breathing. Goblet cells make mucus to trap pathogens and particles to protect the gas exchange system.